It's week 3 here at Springwatch, and although some of our characters have voted to exit, I'm pleased to say there are a few remainers.
There certainly are, but the big question is, will they fledge before the end of the week?
Will they come? Will they go? It's all a bit of an unknown, Gillian.
Well, the wildlife is still delivering here in Cornwall, where I'll be meeting a couple of special birds that are making a remarkable recovery.
But I'll tell you one thing that isn't going to go, Michaela.
What's that then?
The tree slug. Oh, no.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, yes. Welcome to an absurd Springwatch.
Hello and welcome to the wonderful Sherborne Park Estate run by the National Trust up here in the heart of Gloucestershire. We've been here for the last couple of weeks. We're going to be here for the next 60 minutes and we've been giving you the very best of British wildlife, including some real highlights. Michaela, yours?
Oh, I think it's you dressed as a tree slug with a slime trail going behind you.
Available on various internet sites.
What, dramatic ones?
Yeah, dramatic highlight.
Do you know, I always find the predations very dramatic and I find it a little bit traumatic to watch, actually.
But we're going to top that tonight.
Are we?
Yeah. We're going to do something extraordinary for wildlife television because we're going to bring you a miracle in the true sense of the word. We're going to bring a pop rock icon back from the dead. Back from the dead. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. And to witness that, we've got a couple of fabulous guest presenters, very much alive. Lucy Cook. Lucy, what are you up to?
I've been tracking down more of Sherborne's elusive amphibious mammals, so stay tuned for the big reveal.
And I'm back with some brilliant badger behaviour. These marvellous mammals have a few subterranean secrets that I'll be delving into a little later on.
I'm very pleased Patrick's doing badger because it's given me an excuse to wear my rather lovely knitted badger jumper, knitted by a viewer. Thank you very much. I think it's absolutely brilliant. But I feel a bit sorry for you. You're a bit left out. So if anyone wants to knit Chris a tree slug jumper, I'm sure he'll wear it on the show.
Please, ladies and gentlemen, young people, put down the needles and step away from the wool. I can do without the tree.
It would look lovely on you. It would look lovely.
I love the slugs. Just, I don't need the jumper. I really don't.
At the beginning of the show, let me tell you, we have some good news and we have some not quite such good news. So we're going to start off with the good news, and I'm going to give all the good news tonight. And we're going to start off with some new nests, because we don't let the grass grow under our feet here. I mean, it may be week 3, but we're going to launch 2 new nests, and we're going to start with this one. This is it live. Let me tell you, this is such a pretty little nest. Just look at that. And if we go in a bit closer, we can actually see the nest itself. It's like a little fairy nest, Chris, isn't it?
It's down in the Dingley Dale, isn't it?
It really is. And there's lots of chicks in there. I mean, at the moment, they just look like little balls of fluff, but I can tell you there are 5 chicks and they're 5 days old. I mean, from that, it's going to be difficult to guess what these chicks are, but I'll give you a clue. It's Britain's unofficial national bird. Let's have a look and see if we can see the adults. There it is again. Oh, I just love looking at it. It's such a pretty nest. So there we go. There are the chicks. What are they? Well, you will see by the adults. They are robins. Both the parents are feeding. Now, those chicks won't get their red breasts until much, much later. It's very difficult. Well, you can't, in fact, tell the male from the female until you see one of them brooding, because it's only the females that brood. So that one that we saw at the end there is definitely the female. I love that nest though. It's really pretty. It's a feel-good nest, isn't it?
Feel-good fairy tale nest.
Yes, it is.
It's made for you. Absolutely
it
made
really
for
is,
you.
isn't it?
It is.
Let's have a look at another really pretty nest. Here it is. There we go. Now, I'm going to tell you that that's a black cap. And you're going to say...
It's got a brown cap.
It's got a brown cap. I was struggling there to see if that was brown or black. It's a black. It's a black cap. So that is the male sitting on the nest. And these are the smallest chicks that we have at the moment. There are at least 4 chicks in there and they're 3 days old. So let's have a look at them over the last 24 hours. So this is where they are. They're at the base of a tree. But what I want you to do is listen. Can you see hear the female? It's doing that sort of clucking noise. And that's the female, it's got brown cap. Here's the male with his black cap. Now he's singing away, brings food in. That's the female going off. But again, when you see female, listen. It's almost like a little mobile phone call. And that's eliciting those chicks to open their beaks and beg for food, which is exactly what they're doing. And the male is putting the caterpillars in there. So another really lovely, lovely nest.
It is, and not something that you would see or hear unless we had the capacity to put those cameras in there. And it's a little warble, isn't it? Maybe it's because the chicks are still blind and they don't yet have that, instinct to respond visually. So they're doing it acoustically, calling them to beg, and so they can get the food in.
Well, as I say, not only do we have those little cameras in there, but we have microphones as well. So it really is a privileged thing that we're hearing. That's the end of the good news. Over to you, Chris.
I'm not going to give you bad news. I'm just going to give you pragmatic news, down-to-earth pragmatic news. If you've been watching over the last couple of weeks, you'll know that we've had a little owl's nest in one of our barns. And just around the corner from the little owl, a pair of blackbirds decided to try and breed. In fact, they did quite well. They managed to get 4 young to the point of fledging. But then when 2 of them did fledge, the adult owls took them back to their 3 chicks in the barn. So 50% success there. So we thought it was sort of game over between the blackbirds and the owls until we then discovered a second blackbird's nest. So here's the courtyard, and it's on this side that the little owls are nesting, and the first blackbirds were. And on the other side, about 40 metres away, in the barn, we found this. So it's 4 more blackbird chicks being tended by the adults. Both the male and the female were coming in diligently yesterday, feeding them plenty of worms, and they all look very, very healthy. And we go to bed, we get up in the morning, turn the camera on, and look what's on the nest. It's one of our little owls. It's already killed one of the chicks, and then it takes another one and flies out. The female comes back, seems oblivious to the fact that it's lost half of its brood, feeding there. And then very quickly after that, the owl comes back for a second time, doesn't take the chick that it's already killed, it kills one of the 2 remaining chicks there, and then it takes that off and flies directly back to its nest. In it goes, and you can see the 3 young. If you've been watching, you can appreciate how much they've grown on this diet subsidised with blackbird flesh. The remaining living chick in the nest thinks this is not a safe place to be. Now, it's about 9 days old. They don't normally fledge for at least another 10 days, so it's not really designed to be out of the nest, as you can see as it topples to the floor. But frankly, what it's doing is going to assure it of more safety than staying in that nest. It's amazing how it has the instinct to leave after that attack when it's only 9 days old. It's on the ground, the male comes in. By this stage, the adults are a bit confused, I imagine, as to what's happened to their brood. So it misses the chick on the ground there that you can see hopping across to one side. The male exits again, and then this is what we see. The final chick hops off into the corner of the barn. But as you can see, the sun is setting. Any moment now, the owls are going to be active. These birds have a good memory. They'll remember where that nest is. I'm almost certain they're going to go back for that dead chick. The question is, of course, will they find the last living chick?
Oh, it's a very hard watch. It really is a hard watch, and I'm sure you were all shouting at the screen, going, come on, blackbirds. We can actually go live now. We've got a camera, a long lens camera on that barn. Let's see what we can see. Well, that's the male, isn't it, outside?
Yeah.
But
just before we went on air, we saw this, and this is that last remaining chick.
Oh, gosh.
And it's hopping around in the outside area of the barn, on the ground.
Oh, it's not looking good, is it, Chris? It really isn't looking good.
It's not looking good for the blackbird chick, but we've got to be dispassionate about this and think about those little owl chicks. There were 3 of them in the nest, and we know that there's a 70% first-year mortality in young little owls. So only 70% of those are going to get the chance to get through the year and start to breed next year. They are a species in decline. Whether that comes into it or not depends on the way you think about these things. And the other thing we know is that the more food they get in the nest before they leave, the fitter they are are when they leave the nest and get to try and survive through that winter. So, yeah, bad news for the blackbirds, but we've got to say at the same time it's very good news for the little owls.
It's all the circle of life, isn't it? Obviously, that's a drama that a lot of you have been watching, well, certainly the first nest, online and on the red button, and you can continue to watch all our live cameras, and there are lots of ways that you can do that.
The easiest way to reach us is to go online and be our friend on social media. You can like us on Facebook, adding your pictures and comments to our page. Follow us on Instagram and tag us in your photographs. Or tweet us your questions at BBC Springwatch. And don't forget you can watch the live cameras day and night at bbc.co.uk/Springwatch.
Welcome back to Cornwall. Tonight we are deep in Poldark country. We are almost on the most southerly tip of Britain. We're near Land's End, and this area once was a hive of activity. Tin mines all over here, but they have fallen silent a long time ago. But today the cliffs are echoing with the sound of a very, very special bird. And that is the unmistakable call of the chough. Immediately recognizable as a member of the crow family, but so elegant with those red legs and the beak, and in the air a magnificent sight. They are supreme flyers, superbly adapted to catch the eddies and upcurrents and drafts from these sea cliffs where they live. Now, these birds are wrapped up in Cornish identity. Famously, they're on the coat of arms here. They're flanked by a tin miner on the right, fishermen on the left, and the chough standing proudly on that coat of arms. This was such a stronghold for the birds, but in the 60s, their numbers started to decline to the point where there was one pair left in 1969, and by 1973, the last chough had died. But in 2001, quite unexpectedly, 3 birds flew across from Ireland and overwintered here. In 2002, the first breeding pair was found here in Cornwall. And ever since then, there's been a lot of hard work to make sure that the choughs are here to stay. And part of the success of the recovery is down to cows grazing this area. Traditionally, historically, this area, this marine grassland, would have been grazed by cows. But as modern farming practices modernized, those cows were moved inland and this area turned to scrub. But once the choughs returned, the cows are brought back, and this is what we get. This incredible, beautiful carpet of short grass, but more importantly for the choughs, access to the soil, because that's where their food is. And you can see here that the choughs need this mosaic of habitats. They need the short grass, and the cows grazing here. The dung encourages invertebrates, and the birds are able to use their curved beaks to probe and dig around in the dirt for invertebrate prey. Here you can see that they use their beaks to get out leather jackets. These are crane fly larvae. This is their favorite food. So this really is becoming an incredible habitat for these birds. And the recovery is so successful that there is a nesting pair just on the end of the headland here. We've been watching this pair for the last few days, and we've had some real treats of views of these beautiful birds. Here's the male, and this is the female. The male is 12 years old, she's 9. And we've seen them together, choughs pair for life, so we see them together like this a lot. They've been feeding a lot this time of year. They're very, very busy like a lot of birds. They're nesting there in the cave. And these caves are ideal nesting spots for the birds. We've seen them come and go every hour. They've got 3 chicks, they've been ringed, so we know they've got 3 chicks in there. And this is the second successful year. They've had 1 successful brood, and this is the second successful year. Since 2002, there have been 169 successful chicks fledge here in Cornwall. And this year is expected to be a bumper year. They may hit the 200 mark, and that'll be an incredible milestone for these birds. So that's a great success story. Later in the show, we're going to meet another bird that has made an incredible recovery from near catastrophe. And that's down to the efforts of one very inspiring man. But for now, we're going to catch up with some colourful birds that have been breeding in a pub above a pub in Kent. And we're going to catch up with them in the next instalment.
A pair of parakeets have set up home in the Chiltern Tavern in Thanet, Kent. At 3 weeks old, the chicks are growing quickly, although their beaks seem to be slightly ahead of the rest of their bodies, and they're keen to put them to use. They use them to interact with each other, and they're also developing their species' infamous ability to nibble and chew at everything within reach. And with new feathers pushing through each day, it's the perfect tool to pimp and preen their adult coats. But big mouths mean big appetites, and the parents haven't let up on their furious feeding forays. Parakeets are omnivores and well known to be quite destructive birds, feasting on all manner of vegetation. This female is pulling apart seed pods high up in the treetops. Moving acrobatically through the branches, she searches for the best bits, and there's very little she can't get to. The birds get a helping hand here too. Some of the locals enjoy feeding them, and apples go down a treat. Although the birds are always careful not to eat any of the tough outer skin, which is cast aside so they can get to the soft, fleshy fruit. After one feeding trip, our parent parakeets find the pub garden is buzzing. The hot weather has pulled in the punters, and they're too scared to go back into the nest. It's at least 2 hours before the crowd dies down and the parents are brave enough to come back. When they do, the chicks are more than ready for a feed. It's been a small disturbance, but fortunately not enough to be a real setback. The chicks are now 5 weeks old and is getting a bit cramped in their nest. So much so that they're starting to think about exploring their lofty surroundings. Using their bills to haul themselves up, they can see inside of the attic for the first time. And it's a whole new world to investigate, including some intriguing cables that lead to the cameras. As each day passes, signs that they might soon be leaving the loft for good are showing. And in such a small space, the testing of flight muscles can also test a sibling's patience. Despite her chicks being almost ready to leave, the female still hasn't given up on the unhatched egg. So strong is her maternal instinct to brood, it appears she's even tucked a bit of old plaster under her in the hope of hatching something. Outside, the male is keeping guard. And whilst both parents are otherwise occupied, one of the youngsters makes their first daring steps to look at the outside world. And like the drinkers below, contemplating heading home from the cosy pub, for these youngsters, last orders won't be far off.
They really are colourful, charismatic little birds, aren't they? And those chicks are adorable. But what's happened to them since? Well, our cameraman Richard Taylor-Jones went back. One of them had already fledged, but the second chick was extremely reluctant. Needed a lot of persuasion, not only from its parents, but from the wider community of parakeets. And eventually, I'm pleased to say, both of them successfully fledged.
Ringneck parakeet, overdressed, over noisy, and over here. Let's move swiftly on to a mega bird, the goshawk. Come on, let's have a proper bird on the show. 4th of June, this is our young goshawk in its nest. You can see some feathering coming through. It's already got the frown that it needs to terrify everything else in the woods. Listen carefully, you can hear the adults. Over on the right-hand side there, if you watch as well, you can see there's been a food pass. This is the male providing food to the female, which is doing all of the feeding on the nest. She comes in very delicately, and I think the male comes back, and it's probably him that's elicited that response from the female. He's substantially smaller than her, and at this time of the year, terrified to come to the nest. If he comes to the nest, he's going to get a good telling off, potentially even a kill. Here's what they've been bringing in, grey squirrels. Lots of grey squirrels have been brought into the nest, and we see quite a lot of this in goshawk nests around the country. One in Derbyshire, 95% of the diet, grey squirrel. Another one in Thetford, 60%. This is the bird a little later, on the 8th of June, wiggling its little tail there. On this occasion, not a squirrel coming in. This is a passerine of some kind, probably a song thrush, we think. And at this stage, the young bird is capable of feeding itself, so the adult is just dropping that, and it's able to tear it up. Has a bit of trouble with the head, hasn't yet learned that it needs to dismember that hard capsule, so it's trying to swallow it, but it's already got a full cob, so when it does give up on this, it doesn't matter. This is not a bird that's going hungry at all. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And there she comes, look, with some more fresh greenery. We're not entirely sure why they bring this in, that we know that other small birds reduce the bacterial component in the nest using certain aromatic plants, and also the parasites too, it's thought. So it could be that. There's a lot of dead meat rotting in the nest, certainly by the end of the fledging period, so it could be that. And they do keep on adding that green material.
It really is a superb bird, but how on earth does a bird that has such a huge wingspan fly through the trees and hunt like a third wing? You know, it's fantastic to see them, particularly as there are only, what, 542 pairs, I think we found out today.
And they're
so
not
very
spread all
special.
over the UK either. You know, there are hot spots in Kilda, the New Forest where I live, in South Wales, but they're having trouble spreading all over the UK. On the continent, they do really well. They nest in urban Berlin, I think we've said this before, but they feed on a lot of grey squirrels, and they would if they ever got to the suburbs of our towns too. One interesting thing, if you're worried about what they do to red squirrels, because red squirrels spend more time in the trees than the grey spend on the ground, and goshawks take most of their food off the ground, they don't hammer the red squirrels like they do the greys. Pretty good stuff. But whilst we're on rare mammals in the form of red squirrels, what about another one? Lucy is in pursuit tonight of one of our most rapidly declining species. Lucy.
Yes, I've been on a mission to track down what can best be described as a serious contender for Britain's most adorable mammal, and that's the water vole. Now, you might think that that would be easy, but it hasn't been easy, because Britain's biggest vole species is actually rather camera shy, despite its superstar potential. Last year on Springwatch, we did everything in our power to try and capture some footage of water voles. We rigged cameras in pristine water vole territory. Did we see any? No, we didn't. Which was really rather frustrating, because we know that they are here. Water voles love slow-moving streams like Sherborne Brook, with banks that they can burrow into and plenty of reeds for them to eat. And what they like to do is nibble off reeds at the edge of the reed bed and then retreat into the reeds in order to eat them where they feel safe. And they leave behind evidence. See here, this telltale 45-degree angle. That's how they always nibble off their reeds. So you can tell, if you see this, that there's been water voles about. And the other thing is that they're remarkably noisy eaters. If you're quiet, sometimes you can hear them munching in the reeds, but you still can't see them, which is very frustrating. So what I did is I enlisted the help of cameraman Mark Yates and his brilliant thermal imaging camera in the hope that we could penetrate through the reeds and catch a glimpse of these gorgeous creatures. We've had a rather unlikely tip-off that apparently there are water voles at the end of this family's garden. There's something nibbling over there. I can hear it. And I can see. Well, that could be a water vole, couldn't it? The reeds really mask the heat, don't they?
Yeah, no, they do. Lots of people think the thermal camera can just see through everything, but the foliage is really good at stopping the heat signal. It's a barn owl.
Barn owl! Oh, that's so beautiful. Wow. So that's fantastic. While we're waiting for the water voles, we're going to be entertained by a hunting barn owl. But that's the thing, isn't it? If you make the effort and you come out to watch wildlife, you're often rewarded by something extra, not what you were looking for.
There's one, look.
Yes, well spotted. Come on, come out. Oh, here we go. Yes, fantastic.
It went and got something different then as well.
Yeah, it did. It got something, I don't know what those plants are
Almost
down
like
there.
watercressy, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, they have been recorded eating up to 227 different types of plant species, actually. So they have a very varied diet. I just never would have expected it. I mean, this is one of Britain's most endangered, most elusive mammals, and we've seen them. Well, that's just fantastic. Well, I was so pleased that we scored that water vole goal because they are really in decline. This is a map of water voles in the UK, and as you can see, in about 10 years, their numbers have dropped by about 30% in terms of distribution, and UK-wide it's been even more stark. Their distribution has actually dropped by a whopping 94% since the 1960s, and the reason for that is because in the 1940s and the 1950s intensive farming actually just completely wrecked their habitat, and then there was the introduction of the American mink, which, unlike our native otter, could actually fit inside the burrows. It's much smaller and predate upon the voles. So now water voles are a protected species and wildlife trusts are working really hard to protect them. And Mark did manage to get some absolutely fabulous footage of them here at Sherborne. Now, I'm not one for cute animals, but you've got to see that a water vole eating with its hands like that is unbelievably adorable. They have to consume 80% of their body weight every 24 hours, which is the equivalent of me eating 250 cheeseburgers a day. We think Mark's footage could be a female with her young. They can have 2 to 5 litters a year, so they can populate an area quite quickly. They live in burrows with their families, and once the teenage vole's hormones kick in, they've been known to embark on epic journeys of up to 15 kilometres in search of a mate. So, a marathon quest for an animal not much bigger than a hamster. So there you have it. Lonely heart, long distance water voles. Surely a contender for Britain's cutest mammal. And let's just say that they need to get all the love that they can get, because if they're going to be saved, we need to protect them. So next up, Chris is going to be giving us an actual proper conservation success story.
Birds such as curlew, golden plover and dunlin all rely on upland habitats such as peat bogs to nest and raise their young. Unfortunately, all three are becoming increasingly rare across the UK as this delicate habitat comes under increasing threat. And nowhere is this more apparent than at Dovestone in the Peak District. This fragile habitat took over 5,000 years to form, but over the last 200, it's suffered terrible degradation. Overburning, overgrazing and acid rain have stripped it of its protective blanket of vegetation. and as a consequence, the wildlife here has been suffering.
But it's not only that. The quality of the water entering the nearby reservoir is also under threat. Without the layers of vegetation, the rich peat is exposed and washed into the nearby water sources. Such a big problem needs a big team to fix it.
But thankfully, in this, its hour of greatest need, a utilities company and conservationists have come together to make a difference.
The efforts to restore the habitat have been underway for over 10 years. I'm meeting Kate Hanley from the RSPB to find out more.
Kate, how bad was it? What did it look like up here?
So it was pretty much a disaster from a biodiversity and a water quality point of view. Lots of bare peat, big gullies transporting lots of water and lots of bare peat off the hill. Very limited vegetation communities, 2 or 3 species in them.
What did you do to fix it?
So in 2007, United Utilities, who own the land, started their programme. We came in 2010 and we took over from where United Utilities left off. So we've done lots of gully blocking, and one of our main pieces of work is sphagnum moss reintroduction.
Sphagnum moss is vital to a healthy peat bog. So what is it that makes it so special?
Kate, I'm a botanical rolling stone because I haven't gathered too much knowledge about moss. But I sense an opportunity now, so come on, tell me about sphagnum.
We have 8 species here. Our most common species is what we're standing on now. This is Sphagnum fimbriatum. It's kind of a weedy sphagnum species. I mean, we're very pleased to see it here, right. But what we really want are the good, fat, hummock-forming species that hold lots and lots of water, not only low down, but also on the bog surface. Like this one. So this is papillosum, and you see how the leaves are a lot fatter than the last ones we looked at?
Yeah.
So they've got a bigger capacity to hold water.
Look at that.
It's this ability to hold water, up to 10 times its own weight, which is the key to the health of the bog. However, replanting 25 square kilometres of watery bog with moss is no easy feat. Helicopters are used to minimise the damage to this fragile ecosystem. Then RSPB volunteers plant every single bit of moss by hand. But this wouldn't be possible without the financial support of the landowners. I asked Ed Lawrence from United Utilities what's in it for them.
The primary interest, the reason we own this land and have an interest in it, is water quality. And we understand that the better quality water that comes off these moors, the cheaper it is to treat, and we can save money for our customers. So by improving this habitat, we can improve the quality of the water and therefore benefit down at the treatment works. And we do know that the cleanest water we get off the peat bog is off a very sphagnum-rich, very wet peat bog. And to see the real difference that the company investment has made to this habitat, the improvements, the bare peat that has just almost disappeared from such large areas, it's absolutely fantastic.
The improvement of the habitat has also started to filter down to the wildlife too, with many invertebrate species returning to the bog. And more bugs, of course, means more birds too.
Visually, that landscape can look a bit bleak and barren, but I've got to tell you that it's internationally important. We've got between 10 and 15% of all of the world's blanket bogs in the UK, and they're a very important carbon sink. They lock up carbon to prevent it getting into the atmosphere, and this is an astonishing fact. There's more carbon locked up in the UK's blanket bogs than in all of its forest, and all the forest in France, and all the forest in Germany as well.
I know, it is a truly remarkable fact,
is.
isn't it? But I think using this wonderful experiment that was suggested by Moors for the Future, we should show you exactly how good this project is. Now, Now, first of all, imagine one of these with nothing in it except peat on the bottom. You pour water in it, all the water's going to go down and the mud as well. But the first part of that regeneration programme was this. They put these stone gullies sort of in here to stop everything going down, and that was in the eroded areas that were almost like streams. So, Chris, if you'd like to pour some water in,
Okay.
I'm going to hold a jug at the bottom and we're going to see.
So this is muddy water.
Muddy water. Let's see if it takes any of the dirt out of the water, and let's see how much of the water it
Tell me when to
stops.
stop. You know, I'd love to carry
Okay, you
on.
can stop now. I mean, it's slowing down the water. As I say, this is the first part of the regeneration, but you can see that. I mean, the water's still filthy dirty.
Let's have a look at that
and
water.
It's very dirty.
Oh, yeah, OK, no
And-
filtration
Yeah,
at all.
no
Very
filtration.
little. OK.
This is the next stage that we saw in that project. You've got these stone gullies here, and this is some of the new growth that they put seeds in.
OK, so this is natural regeneration.
So in it goes. I mean, certainly slowing it down, isn't it?
Certainly is. Oh, my goodness me, it's going everywhere here. It's going into a crucial zone. Let's just move that over there. OK, sorry about the delay in the water there.
Yeah, go
a little bit of a...
The rain stopped, the sun came out for a minute there.
OK.
Oh, do you know, that's not actually doing a great job either, is it?
Well, hold on, let's have a look.
OK, well, there we go. I mean, it's still,
Compare and
still coming
contrast.
down. It was definitely slower. I mean, that was the point. It managed to keep some of the water. Hardly any difference.
OK.
Let's go on to the third stage. I'm going to cross over you here. Now, this is the final stage where the sphagnum moss sort of grows back and is planted back. And this should really slow down the water and clean it.
It's with absolute confidence that I pour the water through the sphagnum moss here, and you can see it very dramatically slows up the flow.
Oh, look at it. It really does, doesn't it? And it
Yeah.
soaks it into the vegetation.
Yeah.
And look at... Oh, my goodness, this has worked far better than we ever expected.
It hasn't. Has it really?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is. Oh, well, don't look at that bit. Just, it's definitely clearer.
Tell me
Look
when to
at
stop.
that.
Tell
You
me when
can
to
stop now.
OK.
So you can see it really slowed it down. It soaked a lot of it up. It means that the peat bog won't dry out, and it also means that the water has been cleared a little bit, which will make the utility companies very happy.
Have a sip then.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether it's that clean. It's just clean air. It's all relative, isn't it?
A couple of really important things here. It does filter the water in reality, that's the first thing. The other thing is it slows up the flow, which really helps with flooding downstream. But of course, keeping the blanket bog wet when you've done away with all of the overgrazing and the draining and the burning means that you also get a lot more invertebrates there. And I dug out one of them. This is a thing called a tipulid, and that's a crane fly larvae. And these larvae can occur in great abundance down in the sphagnum. They bury right down into that peaty layer where they gorge on all of the decaying vegetation there. And these are the principal food of many of these high peak wading birds. So, of course, if you want to encourage those birds back, you need food there, particularly in the form of these grubs for their young. So this has been a really ambitious project. It's taken an enormous amount of time, effort, work and money and enthusiasm with all of those volunteers. Has it worked? The proof is in the graph. What about this? Dunlin numbers in the last 10 years have gone from 0 to 37, and both golden plover and curlew, a species which has declined by 65% since 1970, have increased by more than 100%. This is a triumph of conservation, a triumph of conservation. And here you can see these really important birds. The curlew has declined so much, it's now an IUCN species that's listed as near threatened. And I have to say that all of this has been done without any predator control at all. Absolutely hats off to the RSPB, all of those volunteers and United Utilities. What a treat to go up there and see that.
Such an exciting project, isn't it? And isn't it fabulous when you can see wildlife come back to an area and you can celebrate it? Gillian's in Cornwall and she's celebrating the return of a fabulous falcon.
Yes, welcome back. We are almost on the southerly tip of the whole of mainland Britain. We're near Land's End. Earlier in the show, we celebrated the return of one of Britain's rarest breeding birds, the chough. Now we're going to look at another bird that came back from the brink of virtual extinction here in Cornwall. And it's a bird that we're much more familiar with. It's a peregrine. We're much more familiar with seeing them in cities nowadays. And last year, Springwatch, we saw these birds nest at Salisbury Cathedral. They use our structures, our cathedrals, our tower blocks like inland cliffs. It provides nesting sites. So this is a wonderful way for us to view these birds, but their natural habitat is here. These sea cliffs, these rugged Cornish coastline is the ideal habitat for these birds. And they soar over these cliffs, and this provides remote and safe nesting sites for these birds, as we've seen a lot with their chicks. So these cliffs were once a stronghold. In the first half of the last century, there were as many as 45 breeding pairs, but their numbers started to dwindle. One local man, a man called Dick Trelevin, who was a real local hero here, started to observe these birds. He was absolutely passionate about these birds. He was born in the 1920s, and he spent many happy days observing and painting the birds. But through his observations, he started to notice there was a problem. By 1959, there was only 2 successful breeding pairs. He raised the alarm, and very soon the primary cause for this decline was identified, and it was DDT. This was a widespread pesticide that was used in many, many countries, and an unexpected side effect was that it caused the catastrophic nest failure of many birds of prey, and that includes peregrines. He started to campaign tirelessly for these birds, and in 1961 there was a voluntary reduction in the use of pesticides. In just 8 years from that point, the first breeding pairs returned to Cornwall. Today, these birds are doing really, really well here. We've been afforded some really great views of the birds as we've been here for the last few days. Now this is North Cornwall, and this is the female, the falcon. She's got two very, very young chicks. She's a very attentive female. This is the male, the tearsel. He does most of the hunting. He doesn't spend much time with the nest, but he provides the female with lots of food. And here she is, and she does most of the feeding. And it's magnificent to see. These birds are doing really, really well here. They're now estimated to be more than 50 pairs in Cornwall. So it's an incredible success story. They've reached carrying capacity. That means that there are as many birds as this habitat can support. And it really is down to the amazing work of this one man, Dick Trelevin, the advocate and conservation hero for these birds. So from these awesome avian predators, now to some superb subterranean mammals and Patrick.
Thanks, Gillian. Now, for the avid watchers of you out there, you may remember during Winter Watch that we got the chance to hang out with our very own badger family, Kate Bush, Mark Armand, and David Bowie. Now, that was a real treat because, as many of you may know, badgers spend much of their time underground. 70% of their lives, in fact, are spent in their underground homes, which, if you're new to Springwatch, are called sets. Now, these sets are kind of like bunkers. They offer protection, and much of their social interaction happens in and around the set. So they're kind of like the cornerstone of badger life. Now, this is really great because I'm stood outside a badger set now. I have to say that we haven't seen any badgers coming in or out over the last couple of days, so we're pretty sure that it's not being used. I'm going to keep my distance anyway. From here we can make out 1, 2, 3 entrances. I think there's a 4th round the corner, just behind the tree there. But that's just a satellite set. The main set can have up to 100 entrances. Now, just imagine your home having 100 different doors and trying to figure out which door goes into which room, which corresponds to which part of the house. I mean, for me, I wouldn't know where to start. But the entrances are just the tip of the iceberg. They lead into a network, a maze of tunnels that, if you were to line them up, could stretch out for 300 meters. Now, when we found that out here, the production team and I had to give it a go and try and build our very own representation of a badger set. Are you ready for this? 1, 2, 3. Take a look at this. Isn't that amazing? It's huge. That is a real representation of a badger set. It measures 15 by 35 meters. But our animal architects don't stop there. They are also expert excavators, and for this particular badger set, it's estimated that the badgers would have had to dig up 25 tons worth of soil, earth and material, and they can do that thanks to their tactical toolkit, which are their powerful front limbs and claws. They use it to dig up all that soil to make that network, that intricate network of tunnels. Now they're taking lots of material out, but they're also bringing some material in. We can see this badger here. It's just taking some bedding, and that forms a vital part of the set. It's used as insulation, and also very, very important for newborn cubs that are in the set. Let's come over this way, because actually we wanted to. That's all happening underground, and we wanted to give you an idea of what it's like to be in a badger set. So our world-class researchers have come up with another proper pucker prop. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the badger set cross-section. Now here we can see exactly that. A couple of tunnels there. We've got the chambers, some bedding, and also that each of these different chambers are used for different things. Sleeping, rearing young. Here, now we've got this really great view of a tunnel going inside. We've got some adults. And now remember, this is about 1 meter deep, complete pitch black, complete darkness. And the adults can't see each other. They're just recognizing each other by smell, by scent. Excellent sense of smell, the badgers. Look at that. That's a nursing chamber that we can see there. Badgers have an average of 3 cubs in a litter. Okay, so we've got some of these vocalizations from these older ones. Listen to that there. Okay, now what about this vocalization? Have a listen. A snoring badger. Only the best for you on Springwatch. Now, considering how much they love to mess around in the muck, badgers are surprisingly tidy animals, and they won't spend any more than a few days in each one of these chambers. And that has a surprising benefit to their health. Like many animals with long hair and fur, they can pick up parasites like fleas and ticks. Now, if they were to just stay in one of these chambers, go out and come back in, those parasites would fall off and build up. But because they move around and cycle through, by the time they come back around to the first chamber, enough time has passed by for those parasites to die off. The way they use these chambers and their sets is just fantastic. And actually, just like us passing down our homes, they pass on their sets from generation to generation. So Chris and Michaela, I think you've got to say, when it comes to badger life, things aren't as black and white as they may seem.
It's fascinating, isn't it, to see their underground world. I mean, that set is massive, as Patrick was showing. And as Patrick said, we've been following our badgers here on Sherborne for the last year. And it all started off last spring when Dr. Dawn Scott came along and she put a collar on one of the badgers. Here she is. There's Dr. Dawn Scott and Chris. And they put a collar on a badger that we named Madonna or Madge. And we were a bit unlucky because that's about all we saw of Madonna. When we came back in autumn watch, she seemed to have disappeared completely. So we were a little bit worried that she was no longer with us, that she'd passed on, in fact.
You mean Madonna was dead?
Madonna, we were a bit worried that Madonna was dead. And then Dawn Scott came back on Saturday and she did a bit of research around the sets. And look, she found the collar. Now, the collar had stopped transmitting, and that's why we thought that Madonna had died. But in fact, it was very small, by the way, isn't it? They got a very small neck. But in fact, it was found above ground, and what Dawn thinks is that maybe she got it off while she went underground, and Madonna
is
could
alive.
be alive.
Madonna's alive.
I have to say,
Alive.
I think that theory is a little bit borderline, because I think Madonna might have just left Sherborne and gone on her holiday, or maybe she went into the set and got into the groove. Maybe she lived to tell the tale, or maybe she did die, and we have to, like a prayer, say goodbye. Or maybe she rose again and and she's just a ray of sunshine. Was that one too many, do you think? 6 I got in there.
Goodness me. Join us next week when we meet Elvis the badger, also back from the dead. Of course, the thing is, once we've got these collars on the badgers, we don't necessarily need to see them, and that was pretty much the same with another badger that we collared, another female in the winter time, and this one we called Kate Bush. This was the only view we had of the badger, but I'm very pleased to say that the collar continued to work and give us lots of valuable data. She wasn't the only badger that we collared. We also collared another one we called David Bowie at the same time. Now, here's a map of their home ranges for the period since Christmas, and I would like to spend the best part of an hour telling you about all of this fascinating information, but I've been told I've got to keep it down to roughly 10 minutes or 30 seconds. So what we see with Kate is that she's got a relatively small set of home ranges which vary throughout the spring, and she spends most of her time foraging in the arable fields. Now look, on the other hand, David over here has a much larger home range. In fact, it's 50% bigger than Kate's, and this is because he's a male and they typically roam around. They'll visit females' ranges outside of their own set on the off chance that they might be able to mate with them, of course. And he spends about 50% of his time in the woodland and 50% of his time in the grassland. But what's interesting is that when Dawn contrasts this with the work that she was doing at Minsmere when we had the badgers collared, she noticed that there was far less a change in the habitats that they were using when it came into spring. And if you remember, when we were at Minsmere, come springtime, the badgers all went down to the scrape and were feeding on birds. Our badgers here, of course, don't have that option. So there we are, that's it in 2 minutes. Join me for a special broadcast somewhere on the internet much later for the full account.
Well, it gives me plenty of time to show my graph then, because the collars also let us look at activity and how activity changes through the season. And this is their activity at night, and you can see as it gets warmer, generally their activity increases. So in April, when it started to get very hot, there's plenty of nighttime activity. So what happened here and here? March the 1st, 2nd, it was really cold, got to minus temperatures about -7, I think it was. 18th, 19th, it was about -3. So clearly, when the temperatures go below freezing, they don't come above ground, and who can blame them?
And this is a perfect graph to show winter torpor, actually, because there's a lot less activity down here, and this is because they're conserving their fat reserves, and this gets them through the winter, and then when things get better, they spend more time out foraging. It's pretty fantastic.
Yep.
So it wasn't just David, Kate and Madonna that we had marked. We also had another badger with a collar called Mark Arman, and I'm afraid it's time for us to... Legend. Legend.
That's absolutely fabulous, isn't it?
I mean, the badger's a legend. The bloke's a legend. Now he's got a badger named after him.
But from Mark Arman, let's go to the lighthouse family and some animals that have to cope with huge tidal changes in a very beautiful but rugged part of the coastline in the northeast of England.
St Mary's Island on the northeast coast of England is a place of extremes. And the lighthouse and its keepers watched over these dangerous rocks for almost 100 years, until falling silent in 1984. But time and tide wait for no man, and as the North Sea continues to ebb and flow, an ever-changing cast of wild custodians have taken over from their human forebears. As the tide falls away, a complex mosaic of rocks and pools is uncovered. The exposed coastline, a magnet for grey seals. Low tide is when they rule this rugged island, hauling out to raise their body temperature, to molt and digest their food after hunting whilst the seas were high. But as many ships found out before them, navigating these rocks is a hazardous business. Only around 50% of grey seal pups make it through their first winter. So these few hardy individuals have earned their right to join this group and bask in their first spring sunshine. Low tide also forces the rock-pooled residents closer together. As the sun passes overhead, temperatures rise and times are tough in the intertidal zones. A hermit crab reveals itself, an opportunistic feeder scraping algae off the rocks to make ends meet. Also grazing is the sea lemon, a sea slug that feasts upon breadcrumb sponge. As the pools continue to shrink, a host of other predators are drawn to the concentrating food source, happy to wait for the right meal to come along. As the sea finally reaches its lowest ebb, a brief moment of calm descends. Before the tide turns, the coastline starts to disappear, and a new set of animals arrives to take over the watch. The shorebirds have been out foraging near the water's edge, but as the tide turned, so have they, on a mission to feed before St. Mary's becomes an island once again. Turnstones are active in the seaweed, their upturned bills and strong necks helping them on the search for hidden food. Wading in the growing pools are common redshanks, plunging their heads underwater in search of small fish and crustaceans. And the distinctive black and white of wading oyster catchers come into full view, searching for cockles and mussels on the inrushing tide. As the rising water greets the grey seals, they rouse themselves and return to the seas to hunt. The rock pools fill again, giving the crowded crustaceans the space to breathe and sweeping cool, rich water over the filter feeders. Finally, the island is cut off once more, and the birds cluster around the lighthouse, the latest shift change in the long line of keepers of this dynamic coastline.
We're sadly coming to the end of our time on the programme now. We feel we ought to give you an update on the health of that blackbird in the barn. What's been going on? We know that youngster is in a perilous position down on the ground, but we see that the male, this was just a few minutes ago, is still coming in and feeding that bird. And we know that they're quite tenacious when it comes to keeping the owls off, but we'll be keeping a close eye on that for the remainder of the evening. Updates tomorrow. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Let's have a look at one of our live cameras. We haven't said hello to the great tits today, so let's have a look at them. There they are. There are 5 chicks in there. Difficult to see the little plucky one. Can you spot it? They all seem to be doing quite well, and they've got a lot of feathers, so who knows? We might be saying goodbye to them in the next couple of days. Loved your badger piece, but you saw a funny badger, didn't you?
I did indeed, yeah. They might be expert excavators, but they're not agile acrobats. Look, a little backwards roly-poly.
It's so embarrassing, isn't it? What are you doing?
I'm scratching your badger.
I've told you not to get off my badger, honestly. You're so naughty.
Well, very sadly, that's all we've got time for. Lucy, what have you got coming up for us tomorrow?
Well, I'm going to be hanging out here with the bats. They've just started to wake up, and tonight I'm going to follow them on their foraging mission.
And I've been out and about helping with a pilot study for one of our most mesmerising birds.
We'll be snuggling up with Idas, the UK's heaviest duck, and one of our most stunning, I think you'll agree.
Be sure to join Maddie Moat at 1:30 tomorrow on the website, on Red Button and on iPlayer. Lots of schools across the country have been joining in with all of Maddie's fun and frolics, and I have to say, plenty of facts too. It's a brilliant programme, so do make sure you watch that. Of course, our cameras are available online as well. Last chance, last couple of days for those. But we'll see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock for some more Springwatch with tree slugs. Yes!